Okay, so today we're talking about Chinese philosophies, and we're comparing Confucianism, Taoism, and legalism. Philosophy, we can break this down, it's basically a Greek word that means love of knowledge, love of wisdom, love of learning. Chinese philosophers were a big deal in that society at that time because they were people who loved learning, and so they devoted their lives to it. They were very, very smart, they were very intelligent, and they worked hard to not only learn, but to share their learning with others. We have very, very ancient documents where the Chinese philosophers wrote down their thoughts, wrote down what they learned and what they thought about it, and that has impacted society in both China and the rest of the world to this day. So we're going to discuss some of these things. So first we need to understand, what are the goals? This goes along with your warm-up. Why are laws important to society? A lot of Chinese philosophy at this time is about law because, like we talked about with the whole Neolithic revolution, when people started settling down in one place and living together in societies, they needed to have some basic guidelines, right? There are some laws that are pretty much universal, like don't murder people, don't steal other people's stuff, okay? Don't commit adultery. Those are some laws that pretty much every civilization on Earth at this point in time, and even after, they all kind of agree, hey, that's probably a good idea if we're trying to live together in peace, right? Because when you have a whole lot of people crammed together in one space, there has to be some guidelines for how we behave, how we treat each other, right? How we uphold the dignity of our society. So these are 3 different viewpoints about how you achieve these goals. So the goals over here, another way to put that is criteria. It's just a fancy word that means, what are we looking for? What are the things that we are looking for, or what are we judging these different philosophies by? Okay, so if you're an athlete, there's different criteria to be able to tell who wins the game, wins the race, who accomplishes the goal, right? So criteria that we're looking at. One of the big ones is how to achieve harmony and order. How to achieve harmony and order. Because again, guys, you want to have a well-ordered society because that's just better for everybody, right? And harmony is an important concept in China. It's part of their culture. It's one of those big goals that they really want to have. Think about it like when people are singing together, if anybody has ever been in a choir or something like that, you want people to sound good together, right? When they sound good together, that's harmony. When they don't, they got to work on that. So, how to achieve harmony and order. And then there's instructions for rulers, okay? We talked about instructions to rulers. So, remember in ancient India that the priests are more important than the kings. It's not quite like that in China, but the philosophers are the ones who advise the kings. So they're still pretty powerful, they're still pretty important. If they get to tell the kings, especially if it's a young king, hey, this is how you need to act, that's a lot of influence, right? It's still very important. Instructions to rulers. Instructions for daily life. How do ordinary people need to live their lives? That is the next one. Instructions for daily life. One of the things I didn't realize about parenting is how much time I would spend explaining how to do the everyday little things. Like explaining that when we take our shoes off, we need to put them in a certain place and not just throw them in the middle of the floor. You guys have probably heard similar things from your parents. So the Chinese philosophers realized that there are things that people are not just born knowing how to do properly, or not born knowing how to do them the way they think they ought to be done. So instructions for daily life is part of this. Then influences on Chinese culture and government is another one. So this is really the impact that they had. Influences, multiple influences on Chinese culture and government. That's a lot to fit in this box, but I think you guys can handle it. Okay, so like I said, guys, these Chinese philosophies and the philosophers who wrote their ideas down, they had an impact on Chinese culture that has lasted for thousands of years and still lasts to this day. I have friends who are Chinese from different parts of the mainland and Hong Kong and Taiwan and just all over the place. They still hold to some of these concepts to this day. That is powerful, that is influence, that is impact. And it all starts with these three ideals, these three systems of thought, shall we say. So we're going to go in the Discovery Education assignment, and you guys are going to be looking for what does Confucianism say as far as instructions to rulers? What does Taoism say about how to achieve harmony and order? What does legalism have to say about instructions for daily life? And then you're filling in all of these boxes for each and every one of these. You might want to work in your table groups and divide and conquer and say, okay, one person does Confucianism, one person does Taoism, one person does legalism. If you've got a 4-person group, that person can do whatever they need to do. But you need to try to find the information, and we will be working to find that. But it's all in your Discovery Education assignment, okay? So let's get this done.